Defending a Lombardi trophy isn't a victory lap. It is a 12-month psychological meat grinder. You have to understand, the air is just fundamentally thinner at the top of the mountain. Every single opponent you face circles your team on their schedule in red ink. You are everybody's Super Bowl. Every minor flaw on your roster is suddenly magnified under a national microscope, and the brutal, unforgiving reality of the National Football League is that dynasties, well, they are rarely built on momentum alone. They absolutely require evolution. You either adapt or you get passed by. And that brings us to the 2026 Seattle Seahawks. This is a franchise that literally battered its way to a championship last season, riding the coattails of an incredibly physical, punishing dark side defense that absolutely suffocated the rest of the league. It was a masterpiece of defensive aggression. But right now, as the summer rain falls on their training camp facility up in the Pacific Northwest, the most fascinating psychological and strategic study isn't actually happening on that defensive side of the ball. No, the defining story of this camp, the one that will make or break this entire season, is the duality of this offensive backfield. We are looking at two completely different, almost opposing realities that are occupying the exact same space at the exact same time. On one hand, you have a veteran quarterback who has navigated the absolute darkest depths of this league to finally find his footing, resurrect his career, and achieve the ultimate prize. And then, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, there is a gaping, terrifying hole at the running back position, a void filled with mystery, constant question marks, and a very real mounting anxiety. The stakes here are just massive. The cinematic tension on the ground in Seattle right now is palpable. And I'm telling you, every single snap they take this August is carrying the immense crushing weight of a title defense.
To really grasp the optimistic, almost relieving side of this backfield dynamic, you have to listen to the raw vulnerability of a man who essentially spent his entire professional career just trying to survive. Listen to these words from their Super Bowl winning quarterback, Sam Darnold. He said, and I quote, "It's been amazing to be able to stay here for this upcoming year and have a stable home instead of just bouncing from apartment to apartment." Honestly, that is not your standard PR-polished press conference soundbite about signing a contract extension. You hear guys talk about loving the city all the time, but this is a human being expressing a profound, long-awaited emotional relief. Think about what he's been through. For years, Sam Darnold was the absolute dictionary definition of an NFL journeyman. He was drafted with these impossible, sky-high expectations and then immediately faced crushing organizational dysfunction. He dealt with injuries. He dealt with a transient lifestyle, literally living out of suitcases month to month, never actually knowing if the city he was playing in would still be his home 6 months down the line. It is incredibly easy for us on the outside to overlook the heavy psychological toll of signing consecutive one-year prove-it contracts. The quarterback position requires the most intense mental preparation, absolute laser focus, and unwavering leadership in all of professional sports. You literally cannot lead 52 other men effectively if you are constantly looking over your own shoulder, wondering if you're going to get cut on Tuesday. Darnold finally has peace of mind. He knows where his locker is, he knows his neighborhood, and in the NFL, let me tell you, a quarterback with peace of mind is a highly, highly dangerous weapon.
Section 1. Darnold's newfound stability. The journey from backup to Super Bowl champion.
Which brings us perfectly to this incredibly telling quote from Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald. He says, "The sky is the limit." Why would I put a limit on his development? Now, you might be wondering why a coach is talking about development for a guy who just won it all. The context here is absolutely fascinating. Take a step back and think about the timeline for a second. Entering this 2026 campaign marks the very first time since the year 2022 that Sam Darnold is actually playing for the exact same team in consecutive seasons. For 4 grueling years, every single offseason was a reset button. He had to learn a completely new, incredibly complex playbook. He had to adapt to the quirks and demands of a brand new coaching staff. He had to build timing and chemistry from absolute scratch with a completely different set of wide receivers. And on top of all that, he had to physically uproot his life and move to a different time zone. Now he has an anchor. He finally has the ultimate job security that a Lombardi trophy brings. And yet here is the kicker. Sam Darnold just had the absolute best statistical year of his entire career in 2025. Now, a conventional old-school coaching staff might look at that success and say, okay, great, just keep doing what you're doing, manage the game, hand the ball off, and whatever you do, don't mess it up. But Mike Macdonald, he is taking the exact opposite approach. He is flat out refusing to cap his quarterback's potential. Macdonald noted that while the team deeply respects the sheer adversity Darnold conquered during those journeyman years, they aren't factoring that trauma into how they coach him today. They aren't babying him. In camp right now, they are actively, aggressively pushing him. They are schematically challenging him with these wildly complex, disguised defensive looks in practice. They are not taking a victory lap, folks. They are trying to discover just how much further they can elevate a veteran who finally, for the first time in his life, has the rock-solid foundation to build something lasting. Section 2. The turnover obstacle, managing the game and protecting the football. So while Darnold has made this incredible movie script leap to become a premier starter, let's ground ourselves in reality for a second. He doesn't need to be Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't need to be Lamar Jackson for this specific Seattle team to win football games. What he absolutely unequivocally has to do is manage the game, limit the catastrophic mistakes, and allow that historically fierce Seattle defense to dictate the pace and flow of the game. But historically, ball security has been the defining, inescapable flaw in Sam Darnold's game. It's the ghost that has haunted him since he entered the league. If there is one singular element that can completely derail a repeat championship run, it is repeatedly handing the opposing team a short field. And that brings us to the crucial sticking point: 14 interceptions. Listen to that number. Despite all the championship success last year, and despite putting up career-high metrics in almost every other passing category, Sam Darnold still threw 14 interceptions during the 2025 regular season. That is not a marginal number. You cannot brush that under the rug. In fact, that marks his highest interception total since his 2018 rookie season, when he was struggling to keep his head above water under center for the New York Jets. It reveals a chilling truth for Seattle fans. While the environment around him drastically improved and his overall efficiency skyrocketed, that underlying instinctual tendency to force the football, to take that unnecessary fatal risk when the pocket collapses around him, is still woven into his DNA. Throwing 14 interceptions is a terrifying, high-wire tightrope walk for a franchise that is built entirely around defensive dominance, controlling the clock, and winning the field position battle.
To really put this into perspective, let's look at the broader landscape of the league. When you look at interceptions since 2024 across the entire NFL, a very concerning context emerges. Geno Smith leads the pack at 32. Baker Mayfield is right behind him at 27. And sitting squarely in third place across the entire league, it's Sam Darnold, with 26 interceptions over the last 2 years. He is pacing ahead of young, developing players who are supposed to make mistakes, like Bo Nix at 23. He's even throwing more picks than high-volume, risk-taking gunslingers like Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, and Brock Purdy, who all sit down at 22. This is the giant, looming shadow hanging over the Seahawks training camp right now. This isn't just a minor blip on the radar or a string of bad luck on tipped passes. This is a systemic, statistical vulnerability. Now, obviously, Seattle won a Super Bowl in spite of this turnover rate. Why? Largely because their defense proved generationally talented at bailing the offense out of disastrous situations. They thrived in sudden change scenarios. But in the National Football League, regression to the mean is the grim reaper of dynasties. You simply cannot consistently give the ball away 26 times in 2 years, ask your defense to play with their backs pressed up against their own end zone week after week, and expect to remain at the absolute top of the mountain forever. It just doesn't work that way. The bill eventually comes due.
However, and this is a massive however, we have to relieve the tension here slightly. 0 turnovers across 3 playoff games. This is the paradox of Sam Darnold. When the lights were the brightest, when the pressure was at its absolute peak, when the weather turned freezing and a single mistake meant your entire season was instantly over, Sam Darnold played flawless, pristine football. He did not turn the ball over a single time in the postseason. 0. Zilch. This is so important because it proves that he actually possesses the deep capability, the mental discipline, and the laser focus required to protect the football when the stakes are at their absolute highest. It wasn't that he was physically incapable of playing clean football. It was that he had to somehow channel it at the perfect moment, and he did. This 0 turnover playoff run, this is the exact reason Coach McDonald believes the sky is the limit. It is the holy grail for Seattle's coaching staff right now. They know the capability is in there. If Darnold can somehow take that pristine, hyper-disciplined decision-making of those 3 playoff games, bottle it up, and stretch it across a grueling 17-game regular season, well, the Seahawks offense immediately transitions from a potential liability into an absolute juggernaut that is virtually impossible to stop.
Section 3. The Kenneth Walker Void. Restructuring the rushing attack.
But an offense is a living, breathing ecosystem, right? And the quarterback, as important as he is only one part of the equation. During this past offseason, the Seattle Seahawks front office made a massive, highly scrutinized, and frankly, incredibly dangerous organizational decision. They decided not to re-sign their star running back, Kenneth Walker. Now, if you followed this team, you know Walker wasn't just a guy on the roster. He was the thumping, relentless engine of their ground game. He was the physical punisher that perfectly complemented their elite defense. Letting a player of that caliber walk out the door, especially after winning a championship, creates a gaping, echoing void in the backfield. To successfully defend a title in this league, you absolutely must be able to run the football in the fourth quarter to grind out the clock and close out games. And suddenly, the primary weapon they used to execute that exact strategy was gone. The starting running back job was left completely wide open. Enter the solution. Drafted to replace Kenneth Walker, rookie Jadarian Price. The Seahawks went into the 2026 NFL Draft knowing exactly what they desperately needed, and they selected Price to be the multifaceted, dynamic answer to their backfield prayers. Make no mistake, this was not a late-round depth signing, just a plan for the future. This was a highly targeted, high-stakes acquisition designed to immediately fill the shoes of a franchise cornerstone. The expectations placed on this rookie's shoulders the exact moment his name was called by the commissioner were astronomical. He wasn't given time to ease into the league. He was immediately thrust into the intense, blinding spotlight as the single missing piece for a defending champion's offense.
So you have to ask, why Jadarian Price? Out of all the players available, what did the Seahawks scouting department see on the tape that made them willing to let a proven, championship-caliber star like Walker go? Well, Jadarian Price's final college season illustrates exactly why the organization believes he possesses such an incredibly high ceiling. Look at the production: 674 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns. Now, on the surface, those are solid numbers, but it's how he got them that matters. These numbers paint the picture of a modern, highly versatile offensive weapon. He isn't just a traditional downhill bruiser running exclusively between the tackles. He has a distinct, lethal nose for the end zone, which is highlighted by those 11 rushing scores. And crucially, this is huge for the modern, spacing-oriented NFL. He has the proven ability to catch the ball cleanly out of the backfield. That is a quarterback's best friend. He represents the kind of dual-threat potential that literally keeps defensive coordinators awake at night trying to game plan against. The Seahawks looked at this production and they envisioned a player who could not only replicate Kenneth Walker's raw ground production, but actually dramatically expand the scope of their passing game. On paper, he was the absolute perfect puzzle piece to complete the picture of a repeating champion.
Which leads us directly to the immediate, dramatic pivot currently hanging over the team's facility in Renton. The grand plan is in place, but where is he? You can hear the pads clicking out there, the whistle is blowing. The defending champions are installing their complex offense right now. You have a massive open starting job, you have a highly touted rookie drafted specifically to take that exact job, and as the grueling, pivotal days of training camp roll on, he is nowhere to be found on the field for warm-ups, he's not participating in the team drills. The shiny new puzzle piece is entirely missing from the board.
Section 4. Price's troubling absence. The silent crisis in training camp.
As of this exact moment we're talking, Price missing these critical training camp practices is escalating from a tiny footnote into a major, glaring concern. It is ominous. Before the regular season has even begun, before a single meaningful snap has been played in a live, full-speed game, the ground game strategy is crashing headfirst into a massive roadblock. Listen, this isn't a 10-year veteran taking a scheduled veteran rest day to save the tread on his tires. This is a rookie who desperately needs every single repetition he can get. He needs every blitz pickup install, he needs every blocking scheme adjustment, and most importantly, he needs every crucial timing route with Sam Darnold. The absence on the field is silent, but I guarantee you the alarm bells inside that front office have to be ringing right now. Now, publicly, the team officially labels these absences as minor. We've all heard it. It's standard, heavily filtered coach speak designed to keep the local media panic to an absolute minimum. They insist they're just being extremely cautious, avoiding rushing their prize rookie back too soon before the regular season actually kicks off. But anyone who understands the brutal, unforgiving cadence of the National Football League knows the harsh truth. Missed practice means missed development. Period. You cannot learn the blinding speed of an NFL defense from the trainer's table. You cannot build essential, split-second trust with your offensive line while standing in sweatpants on the sideline holding a water bottle. Every single day missed severely stunts his ability to claim that lead role they drafted him for. The injury outlook is already becoming a heavy negative factor, creating a massive dilemma for an offense that relies fundamentally on balance to protect its quarterback.
Let's just take a step back and look at the grand picture of this explainer by juxtaposing these two extreme realities fighting for control inside the Seahawks camp right now. On side one, the passing game. You have Sam Darnold, a veteran quarterback experiencing an incredible, emotional career renaissance. He has finally found ultimate stability, and he is backed by a coaching staff aggressively pushing him to shatter his previous ceiling. It is a brilliant, feel-good story of redemption, newfound confidence, and optimism. But then look at side two, the ground game. A drafted rookie, Jadarian Price, handpicked to shoulder the immense burden of replacing a legitimate star, but currently struggling just to physically get on the practice field due to a string of minor but deeply troubling absences. You have unshakable stability and an expanding ceiling on one side, and you have high volatility and a glaring physical absence on the other. This right here is the duality.
This is the intense, fascinating, completely contrasting dynamic that is currently pulling the Seattle Seahawks offense in two completely different directions as they try to gear up for a title defense.
Which leaves us with the ultimate overarching question of this entire explainer. Can this dual reality backfield carry a Super Bowl defense to a repeat championship? It's the ultimate test of complementary football. Can Sam Darnold's newfound stability, his peace of mind, and his high ceiling permanently outweigh his deeply ingrained historical turnover tendencies? Can he channel that flawless playoff magic for 17 straight weeks? And on the other side, can Jadarian Price get healthy enough and get up to speed fast enough to provide the punishing ground support this team desperately requires to close out tight games in December and January? The Seattle defense is undoubtedly elite, we know that, but even the dark side has its breaking point if the offense becomes a one-dimensional, predictable liability because they can't run the rock. I really want to know what you guys think about this incredibly delicate balance. If you are as fascinated by these deep dives into NFL strategies, high-stakes camp battles, and the brutal reality of repeating a championship as I am, make sure you subscribe to the channel right here at NFL Nexus. Hit that like button, jump down into the comments, and let me know your opinion. Can Darnold repeat his flawless playoff magic, or is the loss of Kenneth Walker simply just too much for this offense to overcome? And please, consider supporting the channel on an even deeper level by becoming a member. We are going to be tracking this volatile situation in Seattle extremely closely as opening kickoff approaches. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.